Next at 9, a fire at Safari Joe's. Animals in danger as Green Country's exotic wildlife rescue goes up in flames.
This is the News on 6 at 9 on CW 1219.
A deadly plane crash near Tulsa International Airport tonight. A look at the obstacles investigators face.
And did you think maybe that really couldn't have happened? But it did.
New at 9, a Tulsa tie to the great debaters. We uncover a local link to the inspirational new movie. A mysterious illness causes skin sores and strange microscopic fibers. The government says it wants to know more. And say hello to Sim Man. This lifelike mannequin readies Tulsa nursing students for work in the real world. Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jennifer Lauren. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first let's go to Travis Meyer for a quick check of that cold weather. Travis?
Jennifer, you just said a mouthful there. It is really, really cold. It's been cold all day. It was bitter cold this morning. We had some light snow and sleet, of course, last night. That moved out, but today it was a struggle to warm. Let's take a look at what's going on, though. Here's the plan. It's going to be a cold night, obviously, because we're already freezing, and basically below normal temperatures here as we go through this week and on into next week. And we have winter weather that's going to try to come in, maybe bug Oklahoma on Monday and Tuesday. We'll talk more about that later. Wanted to show you this, though, quickly. The next 30 days, what's expected? Well, temperatures are still not supposed to be all that bad. What about precipitation? We should be a little bit above normal temperature and below normal precipitation. We'll see if that comes to fruition. In the meantime, Katie Green was working on a forecast just to get us through the next 7 days. She'll have that in a little bit. Back to you, Jennifer.
Okay, thanks, Travis.
All right.
Tonight's top story, the search for answers after a deadly plane crash near Tulsa International Airport. The National Transportation Safety Board arrived today to examine the wreckage. The pilot, Darren Ogletree of Dallas, died in the crash. He'd just taken off for Oklahoma City. The weather forced him to rely on instruments to pilot the plane, something he was trained to do. But just after liftoff, he radioed the control tower that there was a problem with one of those key instruments.
We have radar tracking information that he had made two 360-degree circles.
The plane disappeared from radar and the ground search began. They found the wreckage between Bird Creek and Recreation Lake. Investigators say combing for clues after the deadly plane crash in Mohawk Park is a massive undertaking. News on 6 anchor Latoya Stillman has more tonight on the challenges investigators face.
Jennifer, investigators certainly have their work cut out for them. The crash site is heavily wooded, but man and machine are coming together to overcome it. A quick bird's eye view from the crash site shows what took hours to figure out from the ground.
We're talking the thickest woods that Oklahoma has to offer are up there, more or less an urban no man's land. It is, Mohawk Park is bigger than Central Park in New York.
And first responders say a winter storm only added to the problem. Officer Jason Willingham says he and about 75 to 100 other responders from the city of Tulsa and the county didn't have much to go on.
We knew it was north of the airport, but we really just didn't have very much to go off of aside from that. So basically at that point, you go in with your manpower and you start a grid search.
That helped them locate the site, but footwork wasn't their only tool. Meet the Polaris.
It's a six-wheeled all-terrain vehicle that's able to crawl over logs and into places where vehicles just quite simply, I mean, they're smaller, so it's easier to maneuver back into those thick places.
Willingham says IMSA and Tulsa's fire department both have one. He says the vehicles are used for transporting.
Initially, you're talking about you need generators back there for power, you need lights, you need, all the search and rescue equipment to free the victim.
And make the jobs of the FAA and NTSB a whole lot easier.
Extremely professional, extremely helpful folks, and they did a wonderful job of documenting for us.
Willingham says GPS technology also helped. They used it to map out the entire crash site. Latoya Stillman, the News on 6 tonight.
Other big news tonight, a fire at a Green Country exotic animal rescue. Firefighters rushed to Safari Joe's today in Mays County near Adair, but it was too late for some of the animals. Joe Estes owns Safari Joe's. He says he lost monkeys, alligators, a couple of Galapagos tortoises, and exotic birds. He says he was able to get the wolves, lions, and tigers out before the fire was too intense, but the tigers had to be treated for burns. Estes says he was in the barn just half an hour before the fire broke out and says everything seemed fine. Now it's up to fire investigators to find out what went wrong.
We've got the fire that's put out. We're doing mop up, clean up right now, trying to move some debris around and maybe have some idea of what started the fire.
About 30 firefighters from 4 different departments showed up to help. Covering crime tonight, an international investigation in Tulsa. 4 Asian men are in the county jail tonight accused of using bogus credit cards to go on a shopping spree. The group's last purchase was a computer and $2,000 in gift cards at a Tulsa Best Buy. When the manager became suspicious of 3 visas with the same name but different account numbers, the men took off. An off-duty officer who was also shopping chased one man nearly a mile to catch him. An on-duty officer spotted the vehicle and stopped it.
We're just trying to determine if there's a much bigger picture out there or how this relates as maybe an international problem of cards being funneled in.
Police believe the men are from New York and had flown into Oklahoma City on Tuesday, rented a car, and drove to Tulsa. They say it seems the men are only here to use the credit cards. The cards had fake names on front, but checked to a legitimate account holder. The family of a man who was killed while cutting tree limbs is hoping other families can avoid the same heartache. 70-year-old Doug Sanders fell off a ladder in his front yard west of Tulsa. His daughters say he planted the oak tree 60 years ago with his own father. It had special meaning to him. They say they tried to talk him out of doing the cleanup work himself, but they say he liked being independent.
You know, he was a big, strong, 6'4" man for many years, and he I think had trouble coming to terms with the fact that he was getting a little older.
Sanders' family says other people with older parents should keep a close eye on them. Authorities say Mr. Sanders had tied a rope to a tree limb and say when he cut the limb loose, it appears the rope snagged around his arm and pulled him off the ladder. In the economy tonight, Wall Street takes its biggest plunge in months. The Federal Reserve Chairman says the country needs an economic helping hand, and tomorrow the president is going to announce his plan to pump up the economy. On the campaign trail, how much you and I pay for the basics is the talk of the town. Jennifer Miller has more tonight from Las Vegas.
The middle-class money crunch is taking center stage in the campaign for president.
I think if we're going to grow the middle class, we must strengthen and grow the organized labor movement in America.
The first thing we've got to do for every business and family in America is to make these tax cuts permanent.
With Washington scrambling to prevent an economic recession, presidential candidates are in battleground states fighting for a chance to fix the problem.
I will be releasing soon my economic stimulus plan.
You need a president who understands what it's like to live from paycheck to paycheck.
The economy is a big concern in Nevada, site of this Saturday's caucus. Local experts say the economy took a dive last year, and the housing market could get even worse.
You know, the price of the American dream has gone up. We've never paid more for health care, never paid more for college education, never paid more for gas at the pump.
We're facing a recession in the economy. You know, economists may define it one way or the other, but when people tell me what's happening in their lives, I know it's already arrived.
It's a message candidates are using to lure voters before Saturday's Republican primary in South Carolina and the caucus in Nevada. Polls show the economy is a main concern, but those fighting to fix it are still in a tight race. Jennifer Miller, CBS News, Las Vegas.
A progress report tonight in the latest from Iraq. A senior military commander says Iraq is on track to add 80,000 people to its security forces by the end of the year. But the country still has a long ways to go before it's self-sufficient. Lieutenant General James Dubik says Iraqi officials insist they'll need help at least until 2012. On the home front tonight, more Oklahomans answered the call of duty. About 40 reservists from Tinker's 507th Air Refueling Wing left today for Iraq's Kirkuk Air Base. Alex Cameron has more tonight on the departure of yet another group of Oklahoma military men and women.
About 40 men and women with the 507th Air Refueling Wing Security Forces Squadron took their last steps on Oklahoma soil for a while today, stepping up their involvement in Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Woo, Iraq or bust. Yeah, today's my first deployment. I'm shipping off to Kirkuk, Iraq. I'll be there for about 6 months doing perimeter security.
The group appeared mostly relaxed and unafraid today.
Got it first now.
Playing video games as they waited.
The PSP is one of the greatest inventions for the deployment age, I'll tell you that.
Some admitted to being a bit nervous and sad to be leaving family behind.
Today was kind of hard day. I had to say goodbye to my 2 kids and my wife, but I'm with a great group of guys and a great group of women, so I think we'll do all right.
Others couldn't wait to get going.
I've been ready to deploy since the day I joined. That's what I joined for, and finally getting the chance to, so I'm actually more excited about it than anything.
The group has been training for possible deployment since 2006.
When you get over there, be good wingmen to each other, watch each other's back.
They were activated in November, and now their commander says they are ready.
This has been a focus of training for over 2 years with them. So couldn't get 12 years of doing it as a commander. You haven't put out a better group of people.
Squadron members say they're eager to do their part and then get back home.
I just want to tell everybody that we'll be back soon and pray for us.
Alex Cameron, the News on 6.
The men and women of the 507th left today for what we're told will be, at minimum, a 6-month deployment. The group's commander says this is the first deployment for the majority of the squadron, but he says they are all well trained and prepared to do their job. Well, don't call him a dummy. He's actually a high-tech health mannequin helping to train nursing students. And they claim their illness causes weird strings to grow out of their flesh. Now the Centers for Disease Control are investigating. And this Tulsa woman's uncle was one of the heroes of the new Denzel Washington film, The Great Debaters. Covering your health tonight, advanced technology prepares Tulsa nursing students for the real world. Nursing professors at Oral Roberts University are reporting great results with a lifelike mannequin called SimMan. After integrating the robot into their training courses, nursing graduates say they're prepared for the real world.
This man is going to be coming into the emergency room with chest pain.
Senior nursing students at ORU are standing by, ready to help Sam the SimMan with whatever ails him.
Oh, I can't breathe and my chest hurts. Help.
We're going to get some oxygen on you, and why don't you go ahead and get some nitro out, and we'll put nitroglycerin under your tongue, and hopefully that'll help relieve your chest pain.
Through this nearby computer, Professor Sharon Willis tells SimMan what his illness is. Then he simulates it for her students.
I'm feeling very dizzy.
SimMan is a mannequin that comes to life. He talks, he breathes, he has a heartbeat, he has pulses in his neck and his arms, his groin.
Yes, I'm quite nauseous.
With the touch of a button, Sharon can make SimMan vocalize his symptoms. She can even make him vomit. And if that's not realistic enough for you, SimMan can go into cardiac arrest if students don't get things under control.
All clear. We don't want to shock the cameraman. Charge. Okay, there you go.
They're real-life situations that otherwise these students may never get to practice until they actually happen. In that way, Sharon says SimMan has revolutionized nursing school and made new nurses more prepared than ever before.
They learn so much quicker, and then when they get out in the real world, you know, they identify things that sometimes the nurses haven't even noticed.
It's a real person to us because this is what we practice on, so it's really neat.
Students say the best lesson Sam teaches, different breathing problems. They say they might not be able to identify those problems in patients if they hadn't already heard them through SimMan. Other health news tonight, the Centers for Disease Control call for the first ever government test of a mysterious illness. Morgellons syndrome causes sores on the skin that produce mysterious microscopic fibers. Patients say it causes a burning sensation like tiny bugs are crawling on them. The CDC wants to find out how common the problem is and what causes it. That comes as welcome news for researcher Dr. Randy Wymore at OSU's Center for Health Sciences in Tulsa. He studied Morgellons for several years.
At the very least, some physicians might still think the symptoms are very unusual, but be willing to treat them with an open mind and at least say, well, let's see what we can do.
In the past, some doctors have thought of Morgellons as a psychological disorder. Wymore says his research indicates otherwise. We plan to bring you a story tonight about a privately owned Oklahoma elk herd left to fend for itself. But after hearing about our story, the herd's owner contacted us and wants to talk about the situation. To be fair, we want to get his side of the story, so we'll try to bring you a full report sometime next week. Green Country is contributing to reality TV. Coming up, meet our very own contestant for America's Next Top Model. And Denzel Washington stars in and directs a new film, The Great Debaters. how the life of a Tulsa native inspired the Hollywood drama. Plus, talk about a super fan. Check out these tattoos, and you won't believe what he'll do if his team wins the Super Bowl. Those stories plus Katie's Future View forecast when we come back. Covering entertainment tonight, a new movie with ties to Tulsa. The Great Debaters, starring Denzel Washington, is based on the true story of an all-black debate team that won the national championship back in the 1930s. News on 6 reporter Ashley Sims tells us new at 9, the story behind the movie stars a Tulsa native. Ashley?
Jennifer, The Great Debaters has all the makings of a Hollywood fairy tale. An underdog team prevails through adversity and goes on to glory. While the movie is fictional, the Great Debaters were real, and one of them grew up right here in Tulsa.
Gentlemen and lady, debate is combat, but your weapons are words.
This is the story of Melvin Tolson and his Great Debaters. In the Jim Crow South of the 1930s,
Get down.
time when blacks were considered inferior, Tolson trained his legendary debaters to be superior. They went toe-to-toe and word for word with students from the most prestigious white universities of the day and won.
It was a sight to see, and I thought it was a great movie.
But it's not just a movie to Mary Jo Copeland Grissom.
I really thought The Great Debaters, all I could see was Uncle Hobart.
Grissom's uncle, Hobart Jarrett, was part of Wiley College's 1935 championship debate team. It's the team depicted in the movie. Jarrett grew up in Tulsa, survived the 1921 race riots, and graduated from Booker T. Washington High School by the age of 16. Grissom calls her uncle larger than life, but she didn't know he was a part of history until he died in 2005. While she discovered his role on that championship team, the movie did not.
And I really was thinking, well, they left him out of the movie. How could they leave his character out of the movie? He was the great debater.
The great debate over Denzel Washington's movie doesn't end there. The big screen version takes creative license with some of the facts. In reality, the Wiley debaters never went to Harvard, and there was no woman on the championship team. Despite those liberties, the great debater's niece can't argue with one fact.
It was an excellent movie. It's just an excellent movie. What we wanted to do tonight was to talk to you and talk with you a little bit about the movie that you saw.
Grissom and several members of her family met with a local church youth group who saw the movie to set the record straight about the real great debaters.
And did you think maybe that really couldn't have happened? But it did.
They passed around old pictures and read from Hobart Jarrett's journal.
I wanted them to know that there were some real people that that were connected to Tulsa, and who actually lived this.
I, too, am America.
It shows how a regular person like myself can be somebody special and make a difference in the community and the rest of the world.
There are several other Oklahoma ties to the story of the great debaters. The coach, Melvin Tolson, now he's played by Denzel Washington in the movie. He taught at Langston University, and his son became the first black faculty member at the University of Oklahoma. Ashley Sims, the News on 6 tonight.
It's in theaters now. I can't wait to see it, and it'll be a good weekend to bundle up and go see it because it's going to be cold.
Yeah, it's going to be really cold. So, you know, bundle up, go out to the movie, see The Great Debaters. Should be a great movie. I love Denzel Washington.
Yeah, who doesn't? He is great, yes.
All right, so if you're going to go to a movie this week, you're going to bundle up because in between the car and the theater, you're going to run into some very cold winds and, of course, temperatures as well. So just keep that in mind. Here's what temperatures look like right now. We're 29 degrees in Tulsa, 18 degrees already up in Bartlesville, 19 degrees in Veneta, 24 degrees Stillwater and Oklahoma City, 22 degrees Muskogee and Okmulgee. So just a very, very cold evening, and it looks like we're all going to drop into the lower 20s and even the teens as we head into tomorrow morning. So just keep that in mind. And just about the time we might warm up a little bit tomorrow, we've got another front moving through. This one, maybe a flurry or two of snow, looks mostly dry, but it is going to bring in some colder temperatures with it. So high pressure is going to develop just, you know, off to the east as we head into tomorrow morning. However, by tomorrow afternoon, this front will be making its way through. Notice the very cold temperatures behind that front. 40 degrees is about all we'll be able to make it to tomorrow, and we may make that high a little bit before 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And then as soon as that front moves through, we'll see temperatures dropping behind that front pretty fast. In fact, we may be in the 20s by 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. So keep that in mind. Of course, a little bit of cloud cover moves in after that, but I still think we'll see a little bit more of the sunshine on Saturday. However, that sunshine's not going to warm us up too much. Saturday morning, 16 degrees. Notice up to the north, 5 degrees below zero as you head up toward Nebraska. So very cold air behind this next front that's going to stick around through the weekend. We'll only make it to around 32 degrees for Saturday afternoon. So it's going to be a cold weekend, but it is going to be a couple of polar bear days ahead for us. Tomorrow is going to be a polar bear day. We'll drop to around 20 degrees by tomorrow morning. Remember that outlying areas are going to be dropping into the teens. 39 degrees at noon and then 40 degrees. Once again, that could be hit a little bit before 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And then, of course, the cold weather continues through the weekend. We try to warm up on Sunday, but just like what we're seeing tomorrow, as soon as we try to warm up, another front makes its way through. And that could give us a little bit of wintry mix for Monday, maybe even into Tuesday and Wednesday. Definitely cloudy skies with that. So just a big return to January weather. This is our pet picture for tonight. This came from Jane and Mike Smith over at Smith Tax and Accounting. This is Prissy. They saved her because she came to their office at Smith Tax and Accounting looking for food. Said she was really skinny. The poor baby was pregnant. They took her to the vet. Now she's all great, and she's the most loving cat you'll ever see.
She's gorgeous.
Isn't she adorable?
Yes.
You'd never know she was upset, months ago.
Right. And a lot of people have cute pets, and they can send them to you.
That's right. Katie.Green at newson6.net.
Not the actual pet, just a picture.
I can't take, my one cat is way enough for me.
All right. Thanks a lot, Katie. Well, check this guy out. The New England Patriots have one very dedicated fan in New Hampshire. Oh my goodness. Victor Thompson likes the NFL team so much, he got their logo tattooed on his head.
Something that popped in my head. I was watching a game, and I said, I want my head to look like Tom Brady's helmet.
Popped in his head. Thompson plans to get every bit of the helmet down to the smallest detail, including the dot that marks Brady's helmet as having a microphone. And if the Patriots win the Super Bowl, he says he'll add the Lombardi Trophy to his head tattoo, along with the years the team won. Amazing. Up next, details on Tulsa's bridal fair, and will this Bartlesville beauty be America's next top model?